If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you. Welcome to another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. This is not Holla at the Preacher, but I have a special guest with me tonight, my lovely daughter, Trinity.
Hello.
We are talking tonight about youth, and yet with some youth and young adults, about the coronavirus and the coronavirus vaccine. So that's what we're going to do. In a minute, I'm going to introduce my guests on the show tonight. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a great conversation. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, you know, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m., you have an appointment with your doctor. I'm Dr. Donna White CAREY, the host of this show. And you know that my goal is to build a generational health network. That means that we are focusing in on building a network starting here in the Americas and across the diaspora of all Black communities so that we have a network of health that is being built, good health, great health habits from generation to generation. We're also, you probably were saying, well, what is generational health? What does that mean? There's 4 pillars to our generational health. And those pillars of generational health are emotional and mental. We're focusing in on spiritual, on physical, and on environmental health. Those 4 pillars of generational health is what we are building. And I am convinced that if we pay attention to those 4 pillars of generational health, that we are going to end this cycle of premature deaths that we have in our communities. So you see there are 4 pillars of generational health. We're going to focus on those and pay attention, and that's what we do on this show. We focus on one of those 4 pillars. Today, we're focusing on all 4 of those pillars today. So I have some great guests with me. I want to introduce them. We can bring our guests in. So first we have Tracy Washington. Tracy is one of our contact tracer case investigators that works with Team West Oakland, who is basically working in our department with public health department to, yes, hi Tracy, to call you. So if you test positive in Alameda County, there's a group of people who call you and say, hey, you've tested positive and this is what you need to do next. So that is Miss Tracy. So welcome to Talking with Dr. Donna, Tracy. And then our
Thank you, Dr. Donna.
Thank you. And then our other guest is Terrell Patillo. Hey. Terrell Patillo. So Terrell is one of our young adults who is out here. He's a college student. He's working. He's out here in the community. And I thought it was important for us to be able to talk to a young man who is out in the community and looking at what it is what is he hearing? What does he think about coronavirus? Has he gotten vaccinated? We'll see. We're going to find out. And then, of course, my daughter, Trinity CAREY, bringing up the teenagers, 8th grader, and wanted to get a perspective of our youth and young adults about this virus. So welcome, Terrell. Thank you so much for being on the show. Before we start into our conversation, I want to just do a little bit of information for you all about our cases, where we are. So if you can put up the case slides here. So if we look at our cases, we can see that in Alameda County, we have still about 85,000 people who have tested positive for coronavirus. And about 1,600 of those people have died from coronavirus. So again, that's 1,600 people we're looking at who is impacted in some way by coronavirus, a death of someone in coronavirus. That's why we're talking about this, because this virus has not gone away. It's still in our community. We're still having positive cases. And it's still important for us to pay attention to what's happening. Right, Trin? All right, so let's look at our vaccine data, because it's really important that we see cases are still positive, and then our vaccination data. So a little bit over half of the county is vaccinated, which is great news. That means that we're really, really getting closer to that mark of making sure that everybody is protected and everybody is safe. If you look at the data, you can see that in terms of the race data of who is being vaccinated, the numbers of Black and brown people is still well below the percentage of those who are vaccinated in the white or Asian communities. And that's why we're on here tonight, because we want to talk about why that is, and more importantly, what we can do about it to reach our community about getting the virus. Getting the vaccine. We don't want them to get the virus. We want them to get the vaccine. All right, so Tracy and Terrell and Trinity. Hey, all T's tonight. Triple T's. I'm the only D. Okay, so I want to talk to you. I'm going to ask you this question. And I'm going to start with you, Terrell. What do you think about this virus, coronavirus? What are your thoughts about it? We've been in this pandemic for a little bit over a year. Have you personally had has it impacted you personally, this virus?
So I'll start off by saying, in the beginning, it had like the feeling of like when Ebola hit. So I'm thinking like, okay, like it's just another virus. Like it won't be as big. Like I'll get vaccinated soon, and then, but nothing on my end in the beginning changed. Like I was still just living my regular life. There's a lot of things that shut down and stuff like that. It wasn't until the end of 2020 where I got COVID, and it changed my perspective of it completely. Because after that, a lot of my friends started getting it, and then my own personal um, experience with it changed my whole perspective on taking this virus very seriously, especially, and then me spreading it to other people in my household made me want to take this very seriously. So my perspective has changed. It's like a whole 360 ever since the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2020. So yeah.
Yeah, all right, thank you. And so I just to kind of stay with you for a minute. So you said at the beginning it really wasn't that big a deal to you, and then you got coronavirus, and then a lot of your friends were getting coronavirus. Do you think it changed the perspective about the virus for your friends?
It did when I got it,
Mm.
in particular, because I was the one that was more of the lively one. And then when I got it, they kind of like changed a whole bunch of their lifestyles and what they were doing currently. So it was a eye opener for everybody that was really close to me, that was a friend to me. So um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tracy, what about you?
In the beginning, it scared me because I've never experienced a complete shutdown. When they started closing everything down and saying that we had to stay in the house, I panicked. I knew it was serious when my job called me and said, "Don't come back to work." And only gas stations and stores were open. And so it really didn't hit no one close to my family until now. I'm starting to notice people that's closer to me has been affected.
All right. Trinity, what about you?
Um, at first, in school, when we first heard about it, we were like, oh, yay, long weekend. But now, like, progressing from last year, where we were all like, oh, now a lot of people are dying, and now we can't go back to school. And now we're in our 8th grade year, about to graduate. And for most of it, we were on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it made a big impact on your life and your lifestyle, right? Are you all? What did you guys hear about the vaccine? I want to just kind of back up a little bit. What did you hear or know about the vaccine? I'll start with you, Tracy.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I was anti-vaccine. I was not for it. I've heard that the government was trying to put chips in us. They were trying to kill off the minority population. It was not something that I wanted to do at first until
And
I
what
got
about you?
educated.
Until you got educated, yeah. So, did you end up getting the vaccine? Are you vaccinated?
I am partially vaccinated, thanks to you.
What made you change your mind?
The day we had the conversation at the vaccine pod, and you guys kind of explained that, because my thing was, first, I don't want to get the vaccine because I could still catch the virus. And then all the other crazy stuff that I heard about it. But when you guys explained to me that it wasn't to prevent it, it was more to prevent the symptoms and being on a ventilator and dying from it. And that when you assured me that it was safe, and then when I spoke with the guy from the FEMA team, and he was stating as far as like getting the symptoms and the ventilation, what it does to your body, it kind of made me feel like, yeah, then it's probably safe for me to do.
All right. Terrell, do you have the vaccine?
Oh, yes, I do. Thanks to you again. I would like to thank you too, because you were like a big, helper throughout the whole, like when I had COVID and then making sure that I got vaccinated. So, kudos to you and I appreciate you for that.
You're welcome.
What I've heard, I've heard the same with Tracy, like a lot of the like negatives of the vaccine, especially because I have friends that's in like medical, the medical field, and they're in like science, like more of the making the vaccine side. So they're like it takes like 6 or 7 years to develop a functioning vaccine. So it was kind of like they were like giving me like the negative all the time, all day long, of being vaccinated. But me, I have a chronic illness, and it's very important for me to stay safe, especially from getting COVID. So I just wanted to be on the safe side and get the vaccine.
All right. Tran, what about you?
I got my first vaccine shot yesterday.
Yay!
So,
what was your experience? How'd you feel?
getting the shot,
Yeah.
I felt a little nervous because I didn't know if I would get any side effects and if it was really safe until my mom was like, yeah, it's safe. It's the same vaccine as the adults. So I was like, okay. And yeah,
Any side effects?
no.
Oh, good. Good. What about you, Terrell? When you got your vaccine, did you have any side effects from the vaccine?
I just had a slight headache. It really wasn't nothing too major. It was just a slight headache, and that was it. So nothing I can get through.
Right.
And I knew that going into the line that was one of the side effects. So I, just took it. Would have been so.
All right. What about you, Tracy?
No, I didn't. I'm monitored myself the whole night, and I was monitoring to see if I felt anything, and I didn't. I didn't feel anything.
That's great. Yeah. You know, part of the issue that, like you were saying, Terrell, lots of people are concerned about the safety of the vaccine. And like all of you said, that you were concerned whether or not the vaccine was safe or not. And, you know, like your friends were saying, Terrell, that sometimes it takes 6 or 7 years normally to develop the vaccine. And that made people very nervous about getting the vaccine because we did do it pretty fast. But the reason that it takes 6 or 7 years is because most of the time, in most instances of developing a vaccine, the pharmaceutical companies have to put a lot of money in. And so they don't want to put a lot of money in and then have it fail. So they take it slowly. They take one step, they put money in. Okay, that step was fine. Okay, then we can move to the next step, and they put more money in. With this vaccine, the entire world was affected. So every country had money in the game, right? They all put money in to develop this vaccine because it was impacting the entire world. And then the pharmaceutical companies were much more willing to move forward, and they could do these phases that normally they do one at a time because they have to show and prove that it's working in order to get the next influx of money. They had all this money at the beginning, so they could just move through all of the steps very quickly. And they cut a lot of the red tape. You know, both of you work, and so you know in the corporate world, sometimes there's a whole lot of red tape and unnecessary steps and unnecessary people you have to go through in order to get something done. Well, they cut all of that. They say, okay, you don't have to, you know, walk down the hall and get an approval from somebody down the hall to then take it to the person who's across the hall from you, right? Instead, just take it directly to the person across the hall from you. And so they didn't cut safety steps, but because of the influx of money and because of the ability to cut some of those unnecessary steps, we were able to do the vaccine very fast, right? Plus the science. We knew the science, right? For years, they've been studying the family of coronaviruses, even though this particular part of coronavirus was new, the family of coronavirus was well known. So this was like an unknown cousin, but it had relatives that we already knew about. And so there were lots of things that we could pay attention to and know about this virus, even though we didn't know everything about it. We knew enough about it. So some of the reasons why the vaccine was developed so quickly. So what do you tell your friends now, Terrell, now that you've had the vaccine, no major side effects? What are you saying to your friends now, or what are they saying to you?
I say tell them get vaccinated. I tell them wear a mask. I tell them, excuse me, get hand sanitizer, sanitize all the time. I'm telling them I'm not coming over there. If y'all been sick or y'all been out and all that type of stuff, like I'm like, you know, kind of a stickler now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, you know, avoid that. My friends kind of get on me a lot because I'm just like, they're like, you're treating me, you're acting like you're our dad. But, you know, I'm just you know, make sure that everybody's safe and nobody had to really go through what I went through.
Right. That's smart. Tracy, anyone around you not vaccinated?
Everybody around me is not vaccinated, but since I've been vaccinated, I have peers that ask me the experience of it, and they're considering it, even family members.
Yeah. What have you, I'm so curious as to what people, what some of their hangups are. What are some of the hangups that your friends are having that are not vaccinated?
They created it too fast. How can they create a vaccine so fast? And the negative things, the side effects, and as long as I stay in the house or stay away, I'm not going to get anyway. So I don't really need it.
Right. Now, Tracy, one of the things that you do is contact tracing and case investigation, right? So you actually talk to people who have tested positive. And has that changed what you think or how you think about the virus and the vaccine in any way?
Absolutely. I talk to parents that have infants up until people that have been in their late 90s. It's sometimes some days it's overwhelming. Um, and it's also heartfelt to just see and hear what people are going through. You have some people who are not experiencing anything, and then you have some people who are having a real hard time. And so it really has hit our minority, um, the Hispanics and the African American. 95% of the cases that I pull from the queue are Hispanic or African American. And now since February, it's been more babies and kids, and that's really sad. Just to hear the mothers suffering or to watch their children suffer during this virus. And so people are really, they're not really feeling good about the virus. And one thing, people are looking at it as if it's AIDS or if it's some type of weird disease. And so our community, especially Alameda County, they're having a hard time dealing with.
Yeah. And that's the one thing, that how the virus has changed in terms of how people think about it. We were saying at the very beginning, this was a disease of older people, right? Like this, mostly people who are over the age of 70 get the virus, not young people. But as you know, Tracy, because you're making these phone calls, and you, Terrell, you have had coronavirus. And I'm seeing it, when I was in the hospital setting in our infants, even, that we know that it could impact everybody. And so it's really great that we have this vaccine all the way down to our 12-year-olds, right? Because we know that adolescents, our teenagers, are not immune to it. Our babies are not immune to it, and that's why it's important that this vaccine is going down to younger and younger and younger. We have a slide on the number of adolescents that are impacted by coronavirus. And, you would be amazed. We have over 3 million of our adolescents that are impacted, have been positive for coronavirus. And Terrell, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about this. There's this term called long haulers, where you get the virus, you get over the virus, and then months later, you might pick up a symptom or two that was just like you had when you had the virus. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, so when I had it, it was in December. And then probably like February, I got another scare. Because really when I got in December, I stopped having people over my house. Like I stopped going places. Like I was in the house for like 2-3 months. So when I was, getting back comfortable, I had a couple friends come over, probably like 2 at the max. And then when they left like a week later, I started feeling like the same type of symptoms. So I was just like really like stressing and, calling like doctors and making sure I was good, and went to go take COVID testing and things like that. And it was really scary. To think I can really get it again. So, and when I was doing the right things at the time. So it was, really, it hurt my mental health a lot, going through this coronavirus scare, and things like that. Just even having COVID to begin with, and then going and getting the scare in February 2 months later.
Yeah. And that same types of things of the, of the long haulers, which is the symptoms like you had, Terrell. We're also seeing it even younger. If our infants are doing it, we see that our babies, our teens, she's going to always be my baby, but teenagers have that same impact. And that was part of the reason why I wanted her to get the vaccine, because I didn't want her to experience getting coronavirus at such a young age, and then potentially having these symptoms continue on, for how long. So if we look at our cases of coronavirus in adolescents, so, you can see that almost half of our cases are in the 18 to 49 age group, right? So that is who is being impacted. Those are the people who are getting the virus. And those are the people we want to talk to tonight, that we hope are watching, or someone that is watching, because it is so important to recognize that just because you're young doesn't mean that you're not going to get the virus, right? Tracy, you were saying that a lot of it was really heartfelt as you call around and do this case investigation and contact tracing. I know that there's infants, and I don't want you to tell specific names or cases so we can protect everyone's privacy, but can you just give a general idea of what some people, are going through that have this virus?
A lot of people are having the severe symptoms of taste, loss of smell, severe coughing, congestion. They're calling it congestion when they're having a lot of congestion. And they're describing it as allergy symptoms. And now that I'm more educated and I'm more experienced, I pull out of cases that's in my peer around my age, so I can kind of communicate with them and kind of speak their language and make them feel more comfortable. But it just varies. I had an infant that was 9 months old, and the doctor's really concerned because the baby has severe coughs and can barely breathe, and on top of that had asthma as well. So the most people are having really hard symptoms, and then when they're exposed to it, the symptoms come on really quick.
Yeah, it is definitely one of those things where you want to pay attention. So if anyone out there, if you think that you might have coronavirus, you're feeling a little bit of sickness, a little cough, you do want to get checked out. Terrell, what were some of your first symptoms?
I started noticing I had a cough. And then, I just had a cough, but I thought I don't know what I thought it was, but I didn't think it was like corona or anything like that. And then, so I just remember I had it I got exposed to it on a Saturday. I developed the cough on a Monday. And then I got the call on Thursday that somebody tested positive, and then tested positive on Friday, the next day. So it was a quick turn of events and things like that. And then it was just with a cough though, the symptoms that I had, but I didn't think it could have been that, because in the beginning I really didn't think that corona would ever affect me directly.
So now here we are. It's been a little bit over a year since we've been dealing with the pandemic, and life has been different. And so I want to get a sense of what do you all think? How has this impacted you now personally, like in your mental health? Like for you, Trinity, not going to school, not being able to go to school, going to school on Zoom, not going to work like normal. Tracy, how has it impacted you? How has it been emotionally and mentally?
Now I'm conscious of my health. I take several vitamins a day. I'm very cautious of disinfecting, wiping down. And I've been blessed because since March 4th, I've been off work, my permanent job getting paid, and then I picked up another job. But it was also sad to see how many millions of people have lost their jobs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Any impact for you, Trinity?
Not being able to see my friends and not really talking to them in person until like December was hard. And it's kind of just weird to see everybody on Zoom. And most people didn't have their cameras on, so it was just kind of their names. You didn't really know what they looked like anymore, what they sounded like, things like that.
Yeah, that's rough. How is it now? You're back in school now.
Oh, it's good now because I get to see everybody and I get to spend time with my friends. And now that we're about to leave school, I'll kind of maybe get to spend some of the summer with them.
Yay, and you get to have a graduation.
Oh, yeah, in-person graduation. So that will be fun.
Yes, yes. And what about you, Terrell?
I miss the family time like I had. Like it was like a lot of like family functions that I missed out on that we have normally every year. Like Christmas, Thanksgiving, different birthdays, just random Saturdays. Like, family time is probably the most, the one I missed the absolute most. Yeah, it was, yeah, and a lot of people I still haven't seen since 2019 or since Christmas. So it's, it's been that was probably the most that I missed throughout this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, now that the vaccines are out and you're fully vaccinated, Terrell, and Tracy and Trinity, you're on your way to being fully vaccinated. It should be great. We should be able to open up a little bit more. Last week, we talked about the CDC's recommendation of not wearing masks if you're around, if you're outdoors. Yeah, Terrell, you're shaking your head. Thank you. What are your thoughts about masking? Yes.
I'm wearing it all day, every day. The CDC can say what they want. I'm still wearing it. I was just talking to my coworker today when I was at work, and she said that when the kids come back to work or come back to school next year, that they should have the mask. I said, well, I'm gonna wear my mask anyway. So, so this is just something that I feel like somebody should take into account of their own health. And just don't really rely on just trusting everybody that they're, COVID free or just not sick at all, and just protect yourself and worry about yourself in that moment. So
that's right. What are your thoughts about masking, Tracy? Are you going to wear a mask or not when you're around?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I was I'm scared because it's going to be I believe it's going to be another outbreak, and it's going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to hit harder, but I don't know why they would do that. It's scary.
Yeah. What do you think? What about you, Trin?
That's a little not smart. I don't want to be rude, but no, I'm going to be wearing my mask.
Very good.
Just because you'll be vaccinated doesn't mean that everybody else will, and you want to keep them safe. So
that's right. And I talked about this last week. I said I thank the CDC for trying to normalize life for people, but I don't think we're there yet. We're not ready yet. And there's no way of knowing that just because you're outdoors and someone doesn't have a mask on, that it's because they're fully vaccinated. They just may not be wearing a mask. And so we want to really protect yourself. So California, thankfully, California Department of Public Health and our scientists got together and said, CDC made that recommendation, but we in California, we're still going to mask. So if you are outdoors, you should be wearing a mask, whether you're fully vaccinated or not. If you're indoors, you should be wearing a mask unless you're actively eating or actively drinking. The only time that it's safe for you to take your mask off is if you're indoors in a small group of people that you also know are fully vaccinated. If anybody in the group is not vaccinated, then everyone in the group should continue to wear their masks. So that's what the state of California recommends. I like those recommendations much better than the CDC's global, if you're outdoors, you can just stop wearing a mask. All right, so I'm going to say last words from each of you, like anything that you want people to know that from your perspective about the virus or the vaccine. If someone were watching this, what do you want them to know from your perspective? So I will let you go first, Tracy.
Even though you're vaccinated, you still have to be cautious. I've had several cases this week that were considered breakthrough cases who was fully vaccinated and tested positive. Still use your best judgment and stay safe.
That's right. And I think that's such an important point, particularly since we know that the vaccine was not created to prevent you from getting the virus. The vaccine was created to prevent you from dying when you come into contact with the virus. But it still means that you can test positive and potentially spread that virus to somebody else. So it is important, wear your mask and still pay attention. Trinity, anything you want to tell your friends, your age group out there?
Stay safe and wear your mask.
Yes.
Please.
That's right. We want to get back to normal. All right. And Terrell, final words, anything you'd like to tell your group, your age group?
So I'd like to tell y'all, like Trinity said, wear your mask and stay safe. Like Tracy said, you never know who's not vaccinated and stuff. So, make sure that you're thinking about yourself and mask up, sanitize, and, always think about yourself and your personal health.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much to each of you. We are continuing to work on this pandemic, right? We have a lot of work to do, only with 50% vaccinated, but that means we're almost 50% who are not vaccinated. And we really want to get those folks to really think about why they're not vaccinated and then try to answer questions that they might have. Try to get them to understand the science behind it and why the science moves so quickly. And so you all are great ambassadors because you all are about to be fully vaccinated. And it's important that you have the right information to be able to share with your friends about wearing the mask, about getting the vaccine, and it's important. So thank you for being what I call amplifiers. So you know the message, now go out and shout it and spread it to everybody who will listen. So thank you so much for being on the show. I want to give some resources as always, because if anybody has any questions, if you've listened now, you've heard from our panelists and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to get vaccinated. You can go to myturn.ca.gov or you can call the hotline number. They will tell you where you can get your vaccine. And it's great. We have lots of sites and lots of vaccines available. You can also, if you have questions, go to the website vaccinateall58.com or covid19.ca.gov. Both of these sites have lots and lots of information about the vaccine, about the virus, about wearing a mask, about how to protect yourself and your families. So if you have more questions, you can go to those websites as well. So that wraps up another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m., you have an appointment with your doctor. So until next week, take care, wear a mask, sanitize, and protect yourself and your families. Thank you. If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you.